One of the most chaotic portions of the NFL offseason so far, the legal tampering window, is now done. And with that, we're going to look back at the biggest free agent signings so far and examine who are the league's biggest winners and losers. Spoiler alert, it's not this guy. Welcome back, everyone. It's David here. We're going to break down the teams that have made the biggest splash in free agency and what that means for their chances this season. As always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and give us a follow on social media.
Starting with the losers, it's not a stretch to call the Rams Super Bowl contenders after they traded for Stafford. And you know who was really excited about that move? Michael Brockers. He was their longest tenure player and a loyal face of the Rams franchise dating back to when they were still in St. Louis. He's lived through the Sam Bradford era, the Case Keenum era, and the Jared Goff era, so you can forgive him for calling Stafford a level up over Goff since he is far and away the best QB he's ever played with. But unfortunately, he barely got to know Stafford since not long after, he was shipped off to Detroit. Wait, but if Stafford's not there anymore, then that means he's playing with... Oh no.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
The start of Michael Brockers' tenure in Detroit has been marked by apology tours. A lot of apology tours. This guy's down bad. And it didn't take long for the Goff era in Detroit to get off to an awkward start. By signing a new 3-year deal in Detroit, he's going to have to stick it out with Goff for a lot longer than he thought. For the Rams, it may have stung having to trade away a key piece for nothing and putting him in that awkward situation, but it was a vital move in order to get themselves under the salary cap. Doing so without releasing any players was huge for them. Other teams haven't been so lucky and have had to bite the bullet and make tough decisions, the most prominent example being the Steelers cutting Steven Nelson. As for the Lions, Brockers came off a career year recording 5 sacks and should bolster a D-line that's in dire need of some help. On to our next loser, and believe it or not, it's... You mean to tell me the Patriots spent all that money just to be a loser of free agency? Yes. And you know why? Quality over quantity. No amount of money short of bringing Tom Brady back was going to close the gap between them and the Bills. The Patriots are a lot like the Spurs. They may be led by an all-time great coach, but you still need talent to succeed. And once they were left with no stars, they predictably fell off. The Bills took advantage of Brady's departure and staked their claim as the new top dogs in the AFC East in a big way, racing out to a 12-4 record. Josh Allen still has plenty of room to grow, and last I checked, the Bills still have Stephon Diggs. And if Allen takes a step back, they can just rely on the reigning MVP. Yeah, the Bills are loaded, and with the way they're operating, they're going to be ruling that division for a long time. Now that's not to say the Patriots didn't make some nice additions. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are definitely not the new Gronk and Hernandez, but they're both very solid and will make their offense much tougher. Nelson Aguilera came off a career year, one where he had more touchdowns than drops, but the amount of money they paid him compared to other free agent receivers is still laughable. I do like the Jalen Mills signing, who had an unreal story upon arriving in New England.
In my mind, I'm saying, okay, this is coach, but it really didn't click that it was Coach Belichick. So he's just talking to him and telling me, happy to have you, glad for you to be here, excited for you to be here. And I literally turned my back to him and I screamed out loud, like, this is Coach Belichick. Like, this is, like, excuse my language, but I'm like, this is Coach Belichick.
But Bills fans will surely be looking at all the moves they made and quoting Thanos. All that for a drop of blood? It all amounts to a bunch of new faces without a clear plan. Granted, Belichick never approaches free agency with a plan, but he's known for taking the opposite approach. This whole offseason has been confusing, directionless, and unpatriotic. Cam may have some shiny new toys to play with, and he may have shut that kid up by re-signing in New England, but it's not enough to close the gap. And if he plays like ass again, guess who gets the last laugh? That's to say nothing of the guys that the Patriots lost. A big role in their disappointing record last season was the opt-outs of key guys like Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, and Marcus Cannon. They were hoping to get them back this season, but Cannon's been traded to Houston, and Chung announced he's retiring. Joe Thuney was also a very important piece of their offensive line that they just lost to the Chiefs, and it'll take far more than just Trent Brown to fill that void. If Vegas oddsmakers end up overrating the Pats on the back of these moves, go ahead and bet the under on their win total. With confidence. And for our last loser. Was there really any doubt? The Bears' offseason really was an extreme example of expectation versus reality. The expectation was that they were going to go into next season with Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, and they would each take turns being QB2. But instead, they ended up replacing Mitch Trubisky with a less mobile version of Mitch Trubisky. Almost right after they signed Andy Dalton, Schefter tweeted about how aggressively the Bears pursued Wilson, but that the Seahawks wouldn't budge. If you know of a worse way to endear yourself to a new team, I'm all ears. Welcome, Andy. You're not Russ, not even close, and you weren't our plan B. You weren't even our plan F, but you'll have to do. Luckily for you, this fan base is very patient and will have your back no matter what. As if that wasn't enough, Dalton was told he'd be the starter. Like that would get rid of any QB controversy. Nick Foles didn't exactly win over the Bears at this play last season, but they want to get over the playoff hump, right? So why not sign someone who's never won a playoff game? I don't need to say anymore. Bears fans got it from here. Nobody's more thrilled about this than Packers fans, who now get to face Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff 6 times a year. But perhaps even worse than their hot mess at quarterback is the fact that they had to release Kyle Fuller as a cap casualty. Obviously, this isn't an issue that's unique to the Bears, but they could have tried to figure out some way to keep him on the team. The fact that it practically went hand in hand with the Dalton signing is rubbing salt in the wound, as is seeing him join up with Vic Fangio again. At least they retained Allen Robinson, but it was on a franchise tag, which is always the last measure teams go to in order to keep a star player around. That's the stability that a long-term deal brings, and with each Bears win this season expected to go something like this. How much effort will Robinson really be putting into this season? Alright, that's enough bad vibes for one video. Let's shift gears towards the winners of free agency. Our first winner is the Super Bowl loser, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, not to take away from Tampa Bay's unreal defensive performance, but the Chiefs had 2 big injuries on the offensive line in the form of Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. Last season, Schwartz was limited to just 6 games, while Fisher suffered a torn Achilles in the championship game. And as a result, the Bucs had Mahomes running around like he Pac, to quote Kanye. Because of the questions their injuries posed surrounding their futures, the Chiefs decided to release them both to free up cap space. Replacing them are Joe Thuney, who they paid a premium for, and Kyle Long, who came out of retirement just to play for them. Having Long do that for them speaks volumes to how players around the league view the Chiefs organization. The hope is that this type of move can get them back to the Super Bowl, sort of like what Gronk did for the Bucs last year. Meanwhile, on the way out the door, Schwartz helped Kansas City recruit Thuney. Yes, they paid a lot for him, but he had lots of suitors and they were determined to pry him away from New England. After their failed bidding war for Trent Williams, this acquisition becomes even more important in hindsight. The main thing with these moves is keeping Mahomes happy, and judging by his tweets, mission accomplished. They're probably not done making moves. If they can find a high-impact rookie towards the end of the draft, like they did with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then there's no reason to believe they won't make their way back to the Super Bowl. Our next winner, the Cleveland Browns! It's still an adjustment having to say that. They made incredible strides last year, finally shedding that label as the factory of sadness and making the playoffs for the first time since 2002. However, their defense was a clear weakness. Had it been even league average, they could have gone farther in the playoffs. That's why their signing of John Johnson is one of the biggest statements by any team in free agency. Denzel Ward is one of the Browns' best defenders, but outside of him, their secondary was weak. Having Grant Delpit lose out on his rookie season was unfortunate, but last year's safety duo of Ronnie Harrison and Andrew Sendejo simply didn't cut it. So to go from Sendejo to a guy that PFF has never graded below an 80 is an astonishing glow up. And snacking Troy Hill as well, the Browns have added 2 key pieces from last season's top-ranked defense. If Delpit and Greedy Williams can come back from injury and be key contributors this season, the Browns secondary will go from being a weakness to a strength. And on offense, another leap from Baker Mayfield combined with a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. can take the team to new heights on that end. Get off all the jokes and hot takes that you want. Beckham Jr. absolutely makes this team better. Does the AFC North suddenly run through Cleveland now? Time will tell, but if you're a fan, it's impossible not to get excited by all these offseason moves. Our final winner is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shocker, I know, but any defending champ has to deal with a target on their back, so there are 2 ways you can approach that. Either throw down the gauntlet and make a big sign to serve as a reminder to everyone that you're still the top dog, or stand pat and keep all your guys as a signal that you have faith in them and intend to run it back. The Bucs chose the latter. Brady, the GOAT, and their Super Bowl MVP re-upped for 1 more year. But because it includes 3 avoidable years, his cap hit is now $19 million less than it was before the extension. That's huge, and it allowed the rest of the Bucs' key pieces to fall in line. Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Dominican Sue, Chris Godwin on a franchise tag, Donovan Smith, and Gronk are all back. That last one was especially important because the Bills seriously tried to pry away Gronk, but the Bucs managed to convince him to stay. After locking up Fournette, they've now brought back every single starter from their Super Bowl win. The goal heading into this offseason was obviously to pursue another title. That said, even if last year's is the only one they win under Brady, it's hard to see this as anything but a huge success. Last offseason was all about building a winning culture, and this year, they've clearly sustained it. Plus, Brady is now a certified Florida man, and we're all better off for it.